East is no longer at a moment of debate. It is at a moment of strategic choice. Recent commentary attempted to reduce the Netanyahu-Trump meeting to domestic politics, legal pressure, or media optics. That reading is superficial, and it is incorrect. This meeting occurred at a time of converging regional stress, institutional fragility, and accelerating strategic divergence. It reflected not nostalgia for old alignments, but recognition that the regional order is under direct challenge. Two pressures now define the strategic environment confronting the United States, Israel, and the partners of the Abraham Accords. The first pressure is overt and familiar. It is violent, organized, and state-enabled. Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and a wider constellation of armed actors trained, financed, armed, and politically shielded by Iran. These groups are not autonomous movements driven by local grievance alone. They are operational extensions of a single strategic system. Iran's proxy architecture is designed to export instability as a governing method, transforming chaos into leverage and conflict into permanence. But the second pressure is more insidious and ultimately more corrosive. It comes from states that speak the language of counterterrorism while enabling movements tied to the Muslim Brotherhood. States that denounce extremism while empowering Islamist ideologues inside so-called legitimate institutions. States that praise stability while tolerating, and in some cases sponsoring, destabilizing networks under the protection of state recognition. This is not confusion. It is a strategic contradiction. Yemen illustrates the danger with clarity. There, international actors support an official governing authority penetrated by brotherhood-aligned elements. This does not defeat political Islam. It institutionalizes it. Violent ideology is laundered through bureaucracy. Extremism is normalized through ministries, security services, and patronage systems. International legitimacy becomes a shield for a long-term ideological project that lacks genuine popular consent. The outcome is predictable. Islamist networks embed themselves inside the state while presenting themselves externally as the only alternative to chaos. Meanwhile, the Houthi threat persists, and Iran retains leverage, not because it is strong, but because its adversaries remain divided, incoherent, and strategically ambiguous. This context defines the real significance of the Netanyahu-Trump meeting. The central strategic question is no longer theoretical. How can Tehran be prevented from regenerating its proxy capacity and exporting crisis as a permanent regional strategy? Iran itself is showing signs of internal exhaustion. A regime increasingly dependent on coercion at home has diminishing capacity to sustain complex external architectures indefinitely. Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis do not survive on ideology alone. They survive on financing, coordination, weapons pipelines, intelligence, and media support supplied by Tehran. As Iran's domestic legitimacy erodes, the ideological credibility of its proxies erodes with it. Belief weakens when performance fails. Control becomes more expensive as consent disappears. This creates a strategic window, but windows close. Coordinated Western and regional action can exploit Iran's internal strain and fragment its proxy network. Yet coordination must be operational, not rhetorical. Sanctions enforcement must disrupt procurement and logistics channels. Intelligence integration must choke weapons routes and financial corridors. Maritime and air defenses must be hardened against asymmetric pressure. Diplomatic clarity must deny legitimacy to ideological capture, masquerading as governance. For states enabling violent Islamists, including the Muslim Brotherhood, ambiguity must end. Strategic clarity is not moral theater, it is survival logic. One cannot oppose the Muslim Brotherhood while enabling its advance. One cannot fight terrorism while empowering regressive Islamist movements inside governing institutions. One cannot defend the Abraham Accords rhetorically while eroding their foundations in practice. The Abraham Accords represent a deliberate shift away from ideological warfare towards sovereign responsibility and regional integration. They endure because they are built on interests, not illusions. They can still shape the Middle East future, but only if those who benefited from their promise accept the cost of clarity. History will not record intentions. It will not reward ambiguity. It will record strategic choices.